Welcome to the Joe Show. No, welcome to Balderdash. I'm trying to get used to the name change. I've tried my best. But welcome to Balderdash. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you go to Gateway Pro Productions on Facebook, Instagram at _Joe Show 20, which will be changing that. Same thing with TikTok. Make sure you go to _Joe Show 20, man. This is just ridiculous. All these name changes and everything. And make sure you go to YouTube at The Balderdash Podcast and on Spotify where you can find us at Balderdash. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment on those places there because that's how we become bigger and better people. So, all right, we're going to continue with more Pride stuff. I thought the first 2 weeks should be really Pride impacted, right? I wanted to make sure we hit it strong. We're going to talk about a little bit about Pride and stuff. And then next week, we're going to talk about Juneteenth, okay? And then after that, we got my birthday month, so yeah, or birthday, so I got something planned for that. But let's get started with it. So the first people we have are the Daughters of Bilitis. In 1955, Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon founded Daughters of Bilitis, and it was the first lesbian civil and political rights organization in the United States. The organization was formed in San Francisco, September 21st, 1955. It started out as a secret social club. It was an alternative to lesbian bars, which were subject to raids and police harassment. Their mission was to support women who were afraid to come out and become politically active. They also educated women about their rights and gay history. Even though the Daughter of Bilitis endured conflict after conflict, they endured for over 40 years and became an educational resource for lesbians, gay men, researchers, and mental health professionals, right? So I love that organization there that really helped people just kind of gain an understanding of the gay and lesbian community. Also, I love the support that came with that, right? They said that there was these, it was Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon. They were just trying to meet other people who were in the community, right? And so they had these two gay men that they were hanging out with, right? And so they were like, hey, I got my two lesbian friends. I got another pair of lesbians over here. You should meet with them. And so they met and they had a meeting and then they all just clicked. And so then this meeting grew and it grew and it grew over years, right? It was just a very good story. And like I said, I've dove deep into these stories, so I know way more than I'm actually going to be telling y'all because I would love for you to go, just hear this and it kind of sparks something in your brain, right? And then you're like, that was interesting to me, and I want to learn more about it. So I'm going to go out, and I'm going to try to figure out more about this. So I'm just going to take this and just, there you go. All right. The Stonewall Riots. The Stonewall Riots were a series of protests by members of the LGBTQIA plus community in response to a police raid that began in the early morning of June 28th, 1969, at the Stonewall Inn. Patrons of the Stonewall, lesbian, gay, trans activists, and unhoused LGBTQ individuals fought back when the police became violent. The riots are considered the event that transformed the gay liberation movement and the 20th century fight for LGBTQ rights in the United States. A year after the riots, the first gay march took place in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York City, and San Francisco. Within a few years, gay rights organizations were founded across the United States and the world. Today, Pride LGBTQ events are held annually worldwide in June to honor the Stonewall riots. So because of the Stonewall riots and because of the police brutality and because the people of the LGBTQ community were fighting, we got Pride Month out of it, right? We got the gay liberation movement, right? And the 20th century fight for LGBTQ rights in the United States, right? These people were strong. They were fighting for what they believed in, right? And I love the fact that in June, right? Like, because you kind of figure stuff out, you know, like with Black history. And the reason why I keep tying this in with Black history, because these are two very important things to me, right? And they go hand in hand, right, with a lot of with their events, right? Because both people of the groups were persecuted, right? Both people of the groups were seen as monsters, not people, right? Weird, disgusting, right? And they had to fight for their rights, right? And I'm getting a little ahead of myself with the next two that we're going to do, but they had to fight for their rights, and they had to fight to just become normal people, right? And so that's why I talk about them so much. But it's just crazy, because you think people just pull stuff out of their hat, right? When they just come up with something, you'd be like before, I would have been like, hey, why is Pride Month in June? And if somebody said, I don't know, that's just when we have it, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense to me. But to know that this is what happened, like, it's a month of remembering, right? It's a month, like, that's another thing. Like, not only should you be prideful of who you are, but it's a month of remembering, right? Like, remembering what happened, these police raids and things like that, you know? I just think it's super important to just go back and learn your history, right? You know? I mean, our first two events, the Daughters of Bilitis, they were there educating people. Stonewall riots started the gay liberation movement in the world, in the United States. Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was the official United States policy on military service of non-heterosexual people. It was instituted during the Clinton administration. The policy was issued under the Department of Defense on December 21st, 1993, and was in effect from February 28th, 1994 until September 20th, 2011. This policy prohibited military personnel from discriminating against or harassing closeted homosexual or bisexual service members or applicants, while barring openly gay, lesbian, or bisexual people from military service. Right? And so as a child, I thought that, I guess I wasn't a child, I guess I was in high school, but I remember hearing about Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And because I didn't do my history, I thought this was something new, right? That, like, President Obama came up with, right? But I didn't know that this was something that was happening in the Clinton era, you know? But isn't that crazy? Isn't it funny how the U.S. will allow you to join the military before you get the same rights, right? Type of a deal. Remember with black people too? They were just like, hey, listen, we're not gonna give you no goddamn rights, okay? But you gonna come here and you gonna fight in this civil war. You understand me, buddy? Okay? Listen, hey, you might be in there with your buddy doing God knows what, okay? But let me tell you something. You can fight in this war just as long as we don't know what you and your buddy were doing in there, okay? And we're going to let you fight in this war before we give you your rights. Like, what is that? What is that? Like, hey, we're going to let you fight. Like, is the United States like, with these people, what we're going to have to do is, we're going to have to see if they're really Americans and if they really believe in and if they really believe in America. So what they're going to do is we're going to have them fight in the war, have a lot of them die, and then after a lot of them die, then we're going to accept their community. But we're not going to accept it right off the bat. They're going to have to go through a lot of trials and stuff before, you know. I just think it's funny. You know, like, America talk about how free it is. America talk about everybody free. Everybody got rights. And with this big old melting pot, going through history, this don't look like it, right? Why does it matter, right, what somebody's sexual orientation is, as long as they are coming to fight? That's what I want to know, right? It's kind of like what we talked about in Memorial Day, right? Like fighting, going out and fighting and making that decision, right? To go out and fight so you can protect your family and the people that you love. That's a big decision. That's a hard decision. And you have these people who want to fight for their country, even though they might be gay. They want to fight for their country, but you were allowing them to be discriminated against. And you were allowing them to be harassed once people found out that they were gay. Like, that's just crazy to me that the government has to get involved with something like this, right? Treat somebody the way you want to be treated. Isn't that something we learned as kids? Why do we lose that when we become adults, right? I don't understand that. A lot of it, I mean, just in politics even now, right? It's treat someone the way you want to be treated. Nobody's really taking that, you know? Everybody just, it's like they just became an adult and said, forget that type of a deal. I don't know. I just think it's crazy that this, one, has to go through the government, and then two, like you were barring people because of their sexual orientation, or I mean, what they wanted to do in the bedroom. That's what you were judging them on, right? I just don't get it. I mean, if they come here and they want to fight, let them fight, type of a deal. Okay. Last one here is same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage in the United States. The history of same-sex marriage goes back as far as the 70s, when the first lawsuit seeking recognition of a same-sex relationship was brought the question of civil marriage rights and benefits for same-sex couples to the public's attention, though they were unsuccessful. The subject became increasingly prominent in U.S. politics following the 1993 Hawaii Supreme Court decision in Bear v. Mike that suggested that the possibility of the state's prohibition might be unconstitutional. That decision, notably, the decision was met by action at both federal and state levels to restrict marriage to male and female couples, notably the intact. Okay, hold on a second. I'm getting all messed up here. The decision was met by actions at both several and federal state level to restrict marriage to male and female couples, notably the enactment at the federal level of the Defense of Marriage Act. On May 17, 2004, Massachusetts became the first U.S. state and the sixth jurisdiction in the world to legalize same-sex marriage, following the Supreme Judicial Court's decision in Goodridge v. Department of Public Health. Six months later, by late 2014, same-sex marriage had become legal in the state that contained more than 70% of the United States. Okay, I don't know why I'm messing up so much. Because I didn't put no periods in here. That's why. 6 months earlier, by late 2014, same-sex marriage had become legal in the states that contained more than 70% of the United States population. And on June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court struck down all state ban on same-sex marriage, legalizing it in all 50 states, and required states to honor out of state same-sex marriage licenses in the case of Oberfeld v. Hodges, right? And I was talking to my partner. Sorry I was butchering that so much, but I was talking to my partner about this. And I was talking about why does the government have to be, what does the government have to say anything about marriage, right? Like, what benefits does the government get from two people being married? I might have to go do some research on that. But as of right now, in my mindset, without doing any research, I don't see any benefits. Like, what do you get? Why do you care so much? Now, I will tell you, going back and doing some history, is that the reason why marriage licenses were created was to prevent interracial marriages between blacks and whites. And the government wanted to keep track of if blacks were marrying white people, right? And that's why it was invented. And then 30 years later, you get segregation, or you get all these black people start getting rights, right? You get the civil rights movement, okay? And so this had been going on for 30 years. And the government was like, hey, so we've been doing this for 30 years. And it was so we could track to see if black people and white people, was getting married, right? That's what we had it for. But now it's kind of illegal for us to do that. So what we're going to do is just keep doing it. People got to keep getting marriage licenses. And that's what it's been. And then they use that to see, to kind of restrict people of the LGBTQ community from being married. And my thing is, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Right? And people will say that it's not morally right according to Scripture. And to those people, I will say that, because I started this whole thing, this is one, for you people who follow me on Facebook, this is where I found the state, the separation of state and church, right? Because I feel like so many of these politicians nowadays, they are using their religion and they are putting it in the government. Listen, I don't care what you believe, and I don't care how, I don't care what you believe. You can believe it. But we have put this in place, the state versus, or the keeping the state and church separate, for a reason, because you can start putting what you believe on other people who don't believe, right? What things in the Bible, if somebody doesn't believe things in the Bible, why are they following what's in the Bible if they don't believe? It just don't make sense to me. As long as you're not hurting anybody, right? As long as what you're doing is really not affecting too many people, why do people care so much? If two men get together and they get married, how does that affect you? If two women get together and they get married, how does that affect you? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Listen, maybe this is just me. I don't care about nobody else's marriage. I don't. I don't care. You do you, boo-boo, over there. So I don't understand why the government's so nosy. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. But I hope that you have enjoyed these past couple of weeks here and learning a little bit about the LGBT community, right? And how they are fighters, right? They are freaking fighters. And a lot of it is peaceful, besides Stonewall, but that was only because the police started coming after them and they were being harassed, right? But I just like to, one, I love history and I love learning things, but I also love learning about a certain community that I have not been a part of very long. I like learning about that, right? And it just makes me proud to even be part of something even more. Like black people, we good. We good. We great. We fantastic. We're fighters. We try to rise up. Then you get people part of the LGBT community, like, wow, man. Like, there's some fighters, man. Some freaking fighters, right? I just think it's great, to be a part of these communities. Like I said, I do love the history, learning a little bit about that. I don't know, man. I just don't see why there's so much hate for it. I don't see why there's so much hate for it, Even when you do read scripture and you hear that it's wrong, look at Jesus, He had some of those people who, they were doing bad stuff, but he didn't judge them. He might not have accepted what they did, but he didn't judge them, you know? And I think with a lot of his teachings and things, it was just like, hey, listen, this is what I'm saying to you. You can take it or leave it. If you take it, that's great. If you leave it, that's your decision, type of a deal. And that's how I think a lot of people need to be, you know, just nobody's trying to push it down your throat. Hell, if anybody's trying to push it down your throat, it's me, like coming on my show, like, and posting this stuff. But most people in the LGBT community, they're not doing anything. They're just trying to live. And then this month, they're just celebrating. You know, they're celebrating these people. They're just celebrating these events and their history and stuff like that, right? And I think at 1 month out the year, straight people, heterosexual people, y'all be all right. Y'all be all right. Y'all got, what, 11 months out the year. I don't know how to think about that, but it's whatever. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode. Just learned a little bit about Pride Month. We are going to go and talk about Juneteenth next week. So make sure you're there with us. I want to hear all your comments. Make sure you go to Gateway Pro on Facebook, Instagram at _Joshua20. That's also where you can find us on TikTok, right? Go to the Boulder Dash Podcast on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. And go to Spotify.com, also at the Boulder Dash Podcast. We would love to hear your comments. And join us next week, where we're going to talk about Juneteenth. That's what we're going to be talking about. So, go out into the world, become better. And I will see you guys next week for more of Boulder Dash. Bye-bye.